Hi everyone! So in my last video on traits of good writing, we looked at ideas and organization and how they worked with that first step of the writing process, which was pre-writing. So today's video is going to focus on voice and word choice as the next two parts of the traits of good writing. When a lot of people hear voice, they don't quite understand what that means. You can't literally put voice into a piece of writing, but your writing style is what gives your writing piece that voice. So, voice is the writing style of an author, or a combination of idiotypical usage of syntax, diction, punctuation, character development, and dialogue within a given body of text. We've talked about some of these words, but we haven't gone over all of them, so I'm just going to go over those real quick. Syntax, for example, is word choice, and we've gone over that in our writing. It's the way you arrange your words. Diction is the choice and use of words and phrases in speech or writing. Punctuation, like punctuation marks, are the marks used in writing, like commas, parentheses, and periods. Character development should sound familiar to you. It's giving the character depth or personality within a story. And then we have dialogue, which is the conversation between two or more characters. As an example, if you look at a piece of writing from, say, J.K. Rowling and Stephen King, you're going to notice a difference. For those of you who might be unfamiliar, J.K. Rowling specialized in the Harry Potter franchise. She wrote the Harry Potter novels. And then we have Stephen King, and he is, no pun intended, but the king of the horror genre, and I highly recommend both of them. So if you look at their pieces of writing, you can tell that there are differences, and you'll be able to say, oh, this was J.K. Rowling, or oh, this is Stephen King, okay? As another example, if Schnoz were to be in one of their pieces of writing, he would definitely play a different part, okay? If Schnoz was, say, in a J.K. Rowling novel, he might be a magical object, or maybe he would have been one of the childhood toys of like Harry, Ron, or Hermione. In a Stephen King novel, this might be a cursed object. If Schnoz had belonged to a little girl, she probably would have had an untimely death or have been murdered or kidnapped or something negative like that, okay? You can definitely tell the difference between whose writing is whose, and that difference is what the voice is in writing, right? Go ahead and pause your screen for me real quick and answer this question for me. What is the third trait of good writing, and why is it important? Alright, so now we're getting to word choice, and I've already used the word syntax, which does mean word choice, but I do want to go more in depth with that today. Word choice is so important. You can confuse your reader and make them stop, get out of your reading, and start asking, why did they put that? Or what does that mean? You want to keep your reader immersed in your writing, and confusing your reader by poor word choice, you need to avoid that. And here's how we can do that. Word choice is the use of rich, colorful, precise language that communicates not just in a functional way, but in a way that moves and enlightens the reader. It needs to be descriptive. Misuse of words, again, it'll confuse your reader, and that's what we want to avoid. Here are the main reasons people get confused because of poor word choice, and they are misused words, ambiguous words, colloquial words, using jargon, and pronoun confusion. And what those mean, so like misused words is using a word that is wrong because you either thought it meant something different, or you just didn't know it altogether and you tried to sound smart. And you're not the only person who's ever done that. Lots of people try to do that. Ambiguous words are non-specific words, and again, you want that precision of language in your writing. Otherwise, it's vague and it's not being specific, which is what we need. Colloquial words like any slang words that you've heard, they can help, they can add a certain flavor to your text, but you need to make sure it reaches your target audience and that it fits with your character. Otherwise, you get something cringy, and we don't want that. Using jargon, or certain words that are only understood by a select audience, you need to be aware of who your audience is going to be, and if you're using jargon, will that audience that you're targeting understand what you're saying, or will they be left asking questions that are not needed? And then the last one is pronoun confusion, which makes communication easier, it's shorter, but if your reader has multiple subjects, and they're both male, and you say he did this, your reader's going to be asking, well, which character did that? And that you don't want that confusion in your writing. Now, you can fix these. My biggest tip for this is to write first, go back and revise later. Go ahead and pause your screen real quick for me and answer this quick question. What is the fourth trait of good writing, and why is it important? Alright, that's all I have for today. Make sure you write down those questions, make sure you write down answers and bring them to class next time I see you. And that's all I have for you. Don't be afraid to learn. Bye guys.